Today we're going to be taking a look at the Etrailer trailer hub and drum assembly for 6,000-pound E-Z Lube axles. This will be for 12-inch brake assemblies, and it's going to have a 6.5-inch bolt pattern. So here's what our hub and drum assembly looks like once we have it installed. Now the drum is going to give us an area for our brakes to contact so they can make that friction and slow our trailer down. Our drum assembly is going to have a galvanized finish to it, so it's going to be really nice for those marine applications or wherever your trailer may be close to a lot of water. Our hub and drum assembly is going to be a 12-inch diameter, and the bolt pattern is going to be 6 on 5.5. It's going to work with 6,000-pound axles, and it is made for the E-Z Lube axles. You'll notice that in the end of the cap here we'll have a rubber plug. If we pull that plug out, it's going to make servicing the grease fitting right there really easy. We're not going to have to worry about taking the whole cap off. Just pull the plug out and grease up our axle. On our trailer we have electric brakes, but our hub and drum assembly is going to work whether the brakes are electric or hydraulic. So long as you have a 12-inch brake assembly, these will work. The drum itself is going to be made out of iron, and the actual dimensions of our drum assembly is going to be 12 and 15/16 inch diameter, and it's going to be 2 and 3/8 inches deep. Our hub and drum assembly is going to come with everything you need to get it in place. The cap on the end, the seals, the bearings, and even the races, and they're even going to include new lug nuts. Now just keep in mind we are going to have to pack the bearings and put the seal in place, but the races are already going to be installed for us. Our hub and drum assembly does come in a quantity of 1, so if you're replacing the entire axle, make sure to pick up another one. But now that we've gone over the features and seen what it looks like, let's show you how to get everything set up. To begin our installation, you're going to want to lift your trailer up, use some jack stands to support it so we can remove the tire. Once we have the tire removed, we're going to need to remove the grease cap on the end of the hub here. Now typically, we'll take a hammer and we can just kind of tap it. We can take that cap off, but we don't want to damage it. So I'm going to take a flat blade screwdriver and try to get that edge to come up a little bit. We can just work our screwdriver, pop the cap off. Behind the cap we'll have our castle nut. We should have some kind of keeper, maybe a tab like this, or you may have a cotter pin. Either way, we're going to need to remove that keeper and move it out of the way of our castle nut so we can loosen it up. Now once that tab is out of the way of the castle nut and we can loosen it up, we're going to go ahead and remove the castle nut. We'll pull the nut off, and we can start pulling either the ring or cotter pin or whatever is holding it in place. We'll pull that off. And if you want, you can actually grab the whole hub and drum assembly and very carefully slide it out, and that'll bring all the bearings and washers and everything else out, and we can grab them before they hit the ground. Now, the bearing may not come out that easily, and we can pull the entire hub assembly off. So we can grab our hub and drum assembly now, and we'll grab the bearings. Now we're going to have one large one and one small one. We're going to start out with the larger one. Since this is the inside of the hub and drum, we'll take the large bearing, and you'll notice it's tapered. You want the small section to go down, and it's going to fit right inside our hub just like that. But before we fully put it in there, we need to make sure that the bearing's packed with grease. So you want to make sure you have some quality grease, and if you have a bearing packer it will make it easier, but if you don't, a trick is we can take our bearing, you can open up the can, you're just going to kind of scoop it almost like you're grabbing some dip for some chips. It's always a good idea to wear gloves because we don't want to get all over our hands, but we'll grab a bit of the grease and we just want to push it in to the side of the bearing. Make sure it fills in that area, and we'll just work the grease around, again pushing it in like this until we make sure we have all the cavities filled up. lot of people have a tendency just to wipe the grease on the outside. It's not about getting the grease on the outside, it's about getting it in between the rollers here. So that's why it's better to start at the corner and kind of just push it in there like that. We'll just work our way around until we feel comfortable that there's enough grease in there. And we'll take our bearing and we'll drop it in so it's going to sit nice and flat inside the hub. We can grab our seal. Now the seal is going to be closed on one end and open on the other side. You want to make sure that the open side is facing towards the bearing and that the flat side is facing towards us. So we're just going to loosely place it inside of our drum here. Now if you have a seal driver, that's going to be an ideal tool to use. But a lot of us aren't going to have a seal driver that's this size. So a trick that you can do is you can take a block of wood. We're going to go right over the center of our seal and we'll grab a hammer and we're going to hit the wood until our seal is nice and flat sitting. And if it does start to get on an angle like this, you just need to pay attention on where you're hitting the seal and how hard you're driving it in. We can go around, and we're going to feel the edge of the seal and make sure it's nice and flush. We can grab our smaller bearing and we're going to go ahead and grease this up and make sure we have plenty of grease in there. But you want to grab a towel and go ahead and rest it on there when you're done, because we're not going to be putting this in just yet. Now we can come back to our trailer. We want to make sure that our spindle is nice and clean before we put our hub and drum on. So we'll just wipe everything down. Make sure everything's nice and clean. We don't have any kind of debris stuck on there. And once that's nice and clean, we have everything wiped down, we'll grab our hub and drum. We'll slide it into place. Now once you initially get it on there, you are going to feel a little bit of tension. We want to make sure that it's fully seated on there and pushed all the way on. Now we can grab the smaller bearing and slide it into place. Slide our bearing in. Kind of helps if you lift up a little bit, make sure that bearing goes in there all the way. And if it gets off angle, just grab your hub and drum, pull it out, and it'll help recenter that. Take our washer that came off earlier, put that over the top. We can grab our keeper ring, put that in place. And finally we'll put our castle nut on. And I like to tighten these up so they're nice and snug. And I'll spin my drum a couple times. Back it off just a little bit. So we can get that tab on our keeper to line up with the castle nut. We'll just take a flat blade screwdriver. We're going to bend that tab up, and that'll prevent that castle nut from turning on there. And you want to go back and make sure that the hub is full of grease. And we'll know it's full because we'll see it start to seep out around that washer. This will also help out if you didn't pack the bearing as full as you should. This will make sure the grease gets in there. So depending on how full you packed it, it may be pretty quick that it fills up, but if you didn't, it may take a little bit of time. You can see the grease squirting out of the bearing right behind that washer. That way we know it's full. We'll grab our cap and we can put that in place. Now if we have any more that we're replacing, we'll go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we can put our wheel and tire assembly back on. That'll finish up your look at the E-Trailer, trailer, hub, and drum assembly for 6,000-pound E-Z Lube axles.